bagoso que boda. El eguao para oloyuti para moyubaco. Para oloyuti para moyubaco so que boda. El eguao
y boya y buche everybody in Cyberland. It's your favorite Palo, at least I hope so. Omodo or Dileke coming at you with another informative video based on the Letra de Año. Okay, before I go and jump into that, again, thank you all for subscribing. Thank you all for hitting the like button. Those things are vital. If you haven't done it, hit the like and hit the subscribe. But more importantly, leave comments. And additionally, share. This video needs to go out there. The awareness of making sure that we preserve the history and the lineage and the culture of this faith is important, guys and gals out there. Please. So share the video. Next line of business. Thank you. But also, Happy New Year's. Happy New Year's, okay? The holidays, the winter holidays have passed. We're about to go into another holiday with Martin Luther King. But that right there is a great segue when we think about who is Martin Luther King. And we think about where we at today. And we talk about the Letra de Año and the perspectives, right? So, without further ado, you guys know I like to keep these videos as short as possible. We're going to jump into the Letra de Año. But when I talk about Martin Luther King, right? And the reason why I say it's a good segue is because there's some logic that needs to be applied when we talk about the Letra de Año. And why is there a Letra de Año? And what's the purpose of la Letra de Año? I did a video on Letra de Año, but I'm going to emphasize on one point that I made on that last video. What applies to you? Was pulled from another country or was pulled from different countries. Listen, I'm not going to get controversial. I'm not going to get into the politics of it, right? But I want you to be logical about what applies to you. What is the world that you live in, right? But more importantly, if you can narrow that footprint down to the country that you live in, or better yet, narrow that down to maybe the state that you live in, even better, right? Even better. But for all intents and purposes, one United States, Letra de Año is beautiful. And that's the one that I'm going to apply to. Why? Because a lot of my viewers are mainly in the United States. A lot of my viewers have to adapt to the cultural aspects of this land. And when we feed the ground of the United States, and we feed those eguns here, and we feed those cardinal points, we understand that ultimately, at the end of the day, we are feeding our land, not Cuba, not Africa. It's just the way it is. It's to apply logic, not urges, all right? Not urges. We're trying to use our head. We're using our ori. And we are challenged with making sure we make smart decisions. So I mentioned Martin Luther King. Why? Because Martin Luther King was trying to fight for equality, right? In this land. He wasn't trying to fight for equality in Europe. He wasn't trying to fight for equality in South America. Nah. But his battle was closed in, within arm's reach of what he can control, what he can rally up, what he can protest. And he did that within this country, right? And that's what we need to focus on. This country for now. For now. Do we care about the world? Yes. But we need to also narrow that footprint down and focus on what we got to focus on. Okay, with that said, the reason why I chose, this particular Letra de Año that came out of Miami from Ashekun, is because I've been following the group, the association, for a little bit now. And some of the key players there, I vouch for. I validate. I understand their methods and I understand who they are. So, therefore, I went with this particular Letra de Año. Also, they went and took it one step further and fed a lot of the points that needed to be fed for that ceremony, not just in the United States, but also throughout the world, in order to strengthen the bond and the cross energy and the cross flow of pulling this letter. So I thought that was pretty impressive, and I said, you know what? I can't hate on it. Okay, I understand that they're doing the ceremony right, like a lot of people do, right? I do believe 100% that Cuba is doing great things. Now Cuba has 2 letters, where they used to have 1 letter, and Puerto Rico, Mexico, Venezuela, Brazil, Spain. I could keep going on and on and on. It's like 20 letra de años out there. But which one applies to us? So we're going to talk about this one. For this letra de año, okay, here's the second disclaimer, okay? The first one was we picked the one that is necessary for us, all right? We talked about that, and the one that I picked, and the one that I'm going to be applying to my ile, and the one I believe that you should be applying as well, okay? That's 1. 2, always make sure that you follow your lineage. Make sure that you understand what your ile is doing. Making sure that you're all moving as a unit. Because in Ikafun, that unity is more important than anything else. Ogunda Masa, that unity is more important than anything else. Okay, because ultimately you're going to have to go back to the foot of your Olu CYU, your godfather, we'll say, right? And you're going to have to get that consultation anyway that's going to complement the letra de año. Because the letra de año is very big. It's very strategic in vision, okay? It's not very narrow in vision. Because if you look at it, you got letra de año, that's pretty high level. Then you have your awofaka, right? And your ikofa, ita. And then you have the consultation that's going to begin your journey, that in conjunction, you're going to have that triad effect. And you're going to be able to move forward. And it's going to be beautiful. So I'm going to talk to you about the strategic outlook. You're still responsible for understanding your awofaka and ikofa. And you're still responsible for getting that beginning of the year consultation. So let's jump right in. For this particular letra de año, they came out with something that's called Otura Osha. And when you look at Otura Osha, you talk about the complicated nature of the 3 houses. And the 3 houses that are mentioned in Otura Osha has to do with the cemetery, it has to do with prison, right? And it has to do with the home, okay? Now, when we're talking strategic, we talk about the home, meaning the state or even the country. We talk about the complicated nature of the prison system, the riots, the chaos, the people that are maybe breaking the law, or how does that affect us? Then we talk about the cemetery. We talk about the pandemic. We talk about people dying because of maybe the other 2 might be because of the government, might be because of the state, it might be because of the country, who knows, right? Or it could be the looting, it could be people are just out of control, who knows, right? But you see the chaos are still intertwined one way or another, right? Because one's going to feed the other. If the house is not right, the country's not right, the state is not right? That is going to cause people to challenge the prison system, right? Are people getting locked up, not getting locked up, not enough space to lock everybody up? If everybody's acting crazy, do you have enough support in the police force or law enforcement to take care of that? If that doesn't work out, between all of that and between this pandemic, what we haven't been able to control for over 2 years now, it's going to lead to the cemetery. It's going to lead to the cemetery. So how do we control that? How do we control this disarray? Right? Control your bubble. Control your bubble. Your house is your temple. Okay? So that means for all the spiritual leaders out there, we're going to have to take some extra emphasis on the iles. We're going to have to challenge those in the ile to be more responsible. You're going to have to take some of that physical and spiritual actions in order to protect your home, in order for you to do right, because those things are within your control. Because something else that Otura Sa tells us is This is where the liar first comes to play in Oturasa. This is where the person that does not fulfill promises and deceives comes to play. So we're talking about the chaotic houses, and then we talk about the deceptions and the lies. And we have to be smart. This is the year where we have to be smart. All right? Because in this year, we're going to be challenged with doing something. And that's being disciplined and responsible. And there is an old pataki in Honduras that talks about the mosquito. Think about the mosquito. Mosquitoes like to hover around ponds, water, mud, right? And that's how they fester and they drink out of it, right? They get on you and they drink your blood. But they have no limits. They just go and they do their thing. They die. They come back. It's a vicious cycle. But the mosquito in the pataki of Oturasa became king at one point. Well, what does that mean? He became king, was blessed by Obata and a wild loafing, and he messed that up. He grew bored of the responsibilities. He grew bored of being disciplined. And that is why he is forever in the predicament that he is now. Always in this vicious cycle of eating the filth and dying right away. The mosquito is a very complicated insect. But a lot of it has to do with Oturasa. And Oturasa tells you, you can go from wearing the crown one day to negating all your responsibilities and becoming nothing more than an insect, a mosquito, right? That metaphor is designed to show you that you need to be disciplined. You need to take the responsibilities that you have in life, both spiritually and physically, and you need to take it serious. You need to not only take it serious, but start to take the advice of the elders. Respect your elders, please. Oturasa says all you have to do is make smart decisions, because even in Ire, and when we say Ire, we're talking about being in a state of fortune, right? Of health, of tranquility, of love, different types of states, right? Because Ire is all the goodness, right? But with Ire, right? With Ire, if not applied properly, leads to a solbo, the misfortune. And we got to be very smart about that. And we have to be able to make those smart decisions, because if not, we're going to find ourselves in a deeper predicament. Okay? Now, it's time to change some things in your life with Oturasa. Oturasa, because of the complicated natures, remember I told you the overarching, the three houses, right? The complicated natures of maybe the state that you live in, maybe the very home that you sleep and you put your head in, right? Maybe you're in a different location and you've already contemplated about moving. This year might be the year. If you have the capability to do it, then do it. Don't push things off. Be responsible. Be logical. Think these things out. Don't just do it because Oturasa says, hey, you should move. No. You still got to use your head. Okay? You're still responsible for your actions nonetheless. All right? Let's make those smart decisions. If you cannot, then guess what you should be doing? No different from what I said earlier. Reinforce that bubble. If you know the chaos is in the homes, which could be referred to as your spiritual homes, your physical home, your state, your country, that big picture, and you know there's some issues going on with the prisons that could be led because of people who are getting in there and what their actions are, or they're getting let out because of the actions of maybe those homes, which is the state, the federal government, whatever. Then you got the cemetery because of pandemics and this, that, and the other. Okay, reinforce your house spiritually, right? It doesn't hurt. Don't be foolish, right? Lock the door. If you're used to keeping your door unlocked when you go to sleep, maybe you should lock it. If you like to leave your windows open, maybe you should lock it. If you like to leave your keys in your car, maybe you should not leave them in the car. It's the small things, guys. It's the small things. It's the logical things. I'm just reinforcing behaviors that you already know you should probably be doing anyway, especially because Oturasa is reinforcing this. So we need to be attentive and organized in our actions. Time for a little bit of change, okay, guys? Time for a little bit more discipline. Time to get our house in order. And then we talk about something that you're going to hear me say over and over again. Eguns. Egungun. What does that mean? Honor your ancestors. They're waiting to give you something this year. With a lot of death, we look at the ugly side of death, but we don't understand that there's a beautiful side to death. With life, there's death. With death comes an army of spirits and eguns and egunguns for some, right, that are going to be here to assist you. But you have to honor them. Honoring them is not, it's not just, let me set up an altar, let me set up a bóveda and get my 7 African powers and my Congos and my Indians and give love to everybody and I'm lighting them up. How about we learn from their mistakes? How about we learn from their mistakes? Martin Luther King, they right around the corner, another segue, right? He fought hard for some equality. He went about things certain ways. Let's learn from some of the mistakes that maybe he did, right? And let's perfect that so we can see the vision that he had and make it even better. We got to be smart about things, right? We do. Modern science, immunizations, the COVID shot. Who cares? Make smart decisions. Stop hiding behind different cloaks of either misinformation or fear. It's up to you. Because the eguns are showing us the way. A lot of people died because of COVID. A lot of people died because they made poor decisions. A lot of people died because of actions that they created themselves. Don't be that person. And call to the eguns for resolution. They want to help you. So why aren't you asking? Ask. I promise you. They're going to do something to put you on the right path. But you're going to have to logically think it out. You're going to have to be able to see it. And you're going to have to be able to consult Ifa in order to get to where you're going to get to. Okay? The next one I want to talk to you about is going to be the second sign, which came out, Ogunda Ofun. Ogunda Ofun is one that talks about, as we see Oturasa and the challenges that it brings, Ogunda Ofun tells us, hey, you need mental fortitude. You need to be mentally strong in all your actions. Because divine grace is going to be needed. A lot of people are going to be challenged with their spirituality. A lot of people are going to really want to understand the whys. They're not going to be ready to say, okay, I got it. Or okay, I'm moving out. No, they're going to want to know the whys. And sometimes they're not going to get the why. And that's going to challenge their faith. Their faith in many different things, physically, spiritually, even mentally sometimes. Again, it's time to organize. The 3 houses are in chaos. The 3 houses are going to make sure that we feel that pain. So we're trying to be preventative and we're trying to get right in order for us to live a more prosperous life. So you got to develop yourself spiritually, okay? Mental fortitude. Cherish your relationships. If anything Ogunda Ofun tells us is that we're probably going to not do so good in the realm of relationships. And if you're not good at it now, you're not going to be good at it at all in 2022. That's Ogunda Ofun. Because with the chaos and already a shaky relationship, you're doomed to bad things. So what should you do? Don't be doomed. Don't give up hope. Let's refocus. What are the things that your spouse, your girlfriend, your fiance, your friend, whatever, what are you doing wrong with those intimate partners that you want in your life? Have you self-reflected? Because that's cherishing your relationships. Not just with intimate partners, but with family, with friends, with God. Olodumare is watching. Olodumare is watching. Okay? And they want nothing but the best for us. So what is going to happen when they come down and begin to challenge us? And we're just not up to par. We got to do right. So cherish those relationships. Now cherish your health. More importantly, the first sign of Durasa, we talked about the cemetery, we talked about honor the Egun, we talked about listening to advice. Ogun Nafun comes with a whole list of, no kidding, health issues. Starting from the chest on down to the stomach area and the region, which concerns me a lot for women. Obinis, your womb, protect your ovaries, protect your pregnancy, consult E5 if you're pregnant. Let's make sure we get you right. All right? Because again, E5 is going to work in conjunction with the physical world. Medical science, got it. We're going to do our thing. Spiritually, we're going to do our thing. And we're going to balance those things out so that you have the best of both worlds. Make sense? It makes sense. Come on. All right. Now, what else we got? We got the, we got to be realistic. We got to be realistic. Ogundafun is a sign where a lot of times people try to reach for more than they can grab, right? Or they're trying to reach too high, right? Or they're trying to run too fast. And many people that know me know I say all the time, this is not a sprint, this is a marathon, right? So particularly for this Letra de Año, I want you to instill that concept. I want you to understand that we have to be able to get what we need, not necessarily what we want. If anyone knows me, there's 3 different ODs that I've spoken about in the past. And it's this one right here that gets us in trouble. Those urges, right? Those urges and those emotions, which begins to taint and interfere with the capacity of this OD right here. We got to make, again, smart decisions like Otura Sa tells us. But more importantly, we got to make sure that sometimes what we want is not what we need, right? Marathon, not a sprint. Then we have to learn to listen more. Listen more. Less talking, more listening. Very important. Very important. Try to get out of the habit of trying to talk too much or trying to be the loudest person in the room. You have to listen more on your surroundings in order to be successful and overcome this sign. And in 22, you want to be that attentive ear. You want to be that humble body. You want to be that person that's got their house reinforced and you're organized. You're using your brain. You're looking at ways to develop yourself spiritually and physically. And you're going to the doctor if you know you're not feeling right. That's it. Guys, these are easy things to do. And then it brings me to 2 more things on Ogundafun, which is Eguns, require attention. Oturasas mentioned Eguns, and now Ogundafun is mentioning Eguns. I think you should probably do something with Eguns. I think you should align yourself better with Eguns. And everybody aligns differently. Everybody aligns differently. And that's something that people don't realize. Oboveda, altar, whatever nature-based faith a lot of people that are attached to, there is some form of Egun worship, ancestor worship. How do you do it? It's up to you, but they need attention. Take care of that. And here we want to respect Ochun and all that is Ochun. Okay? Whether respect the rivers, respect the daughters of Ochun, respect the sons of Ochun, respect any attribute or characteristic of what is Ochun. Which goes hand in hand with that relationship I was telling you about. Respect the relationships, right? Very, very important. Okay, now to the 3rd sign before we jump into the prophecy. Osarete. Osarete, okay, is the sign that says, hey. And you're going to see how it builds up. You'll see how these 3 signs all start to come together to speak and repeat a lot of information that I already said. But Osarete talks about the use of herbs, the healing, right? Mafarafumo sign. But not just in spiritual medicine, but in medical medicine, modern medicine, organic supplements, vitamins, things that nurture you, right? but we're not necessarily forgetting the spiritual side of things. Okay. It also tells us that we have to come to terms, because as we try to build our medicine and we do some healing, we have to heal internally, and some things is not about medicine. Some things is about understanding. Some things is about understanding our shortcomings. Come to terms with your family spiritually and biologically. There's no mystery. Sometimes you're not going to get along with people. Sometimes, you can't pick your family. But your family's your family. They still require a certain level of respect and understanding. Where some people, you could probably just cut them off. But understand that. The spiritual houses that you live in, be patient. 2022 will drive some form of impatience, some type of chaotic situation. And it's going to be your job to be humble, logical, ethical, moral. Because those things are going to drive you. Those things are going to drive you. And then you're going to have to find balance. Balance in life. Because osarete. Okay? Osarete. Osa is where if you don't have the proper balance, like in Baba Yobe tells you, the head takes the body, right? The head is the governing aspect here. But you need to find that balance mentally so that physically you're doing well and you're healing. Because if you're not mentally right, how are you going to be physically right? If you're not spiritually right, how are you going to be mentally right? If you're not socially right, how are you going to be physically and spiritually right? Everything comes together, whether you're talking about physical, spiritual, mental, or social. You got to get those things right. Okay? And lastly, when we talk about osarete, we talk about the aspects of you are what you dish. Okay? You are what you dish. And this is what this means. When you say you are what you dish, is your actions all have some form of reaction. Right? If you're at home and you can't put down the donuts and you're not working out and you've been stuck in COVID and you've been teleworking, you haven't had a job in a while, and now you're lazy, you're out of breath, you can't even go up a flight of stairs, you're not studying, you're not doing anything to better yourself. The doctor said, hey, you got to stop eating all these fatty foods, but you're still eating them because you can't stop. It could be it could be a lot of different things. You are what you reek. Okay? You want to stay where you're at and you want to be status quo. As long as you understand where that leads you, that's perfect. But if you don't, and I recommend you don't, push through this. You already has a capacity to do anything you need to do. Anything you want, really. Okay? You already even has the power to move you out of your destiny and go do something else that you're supposed to be doing. And even though it's taking you off your destiny and you're going to suffer through it, you're still going to have the capacity to do it. You might be miserable being a surgeon, making all that money, right? But that's where you chose and you roughed through it when you really should have been a teacher, should have been a professor, right? But you are what you reek. Okay? You can do it all. Don't be discouraged. Do right by you. Do right by everybody around you. Be humble, be ethical, be moral. Okay, now, let's talk about the prophecy. I said a lot on these last three signs because I think it's important for you to really understand it, because now here comes the prophecy. The prophecy with these three signs speaks of Ireariku, long life blessings, right? And it says Oyale, Tesi, Timbelaye, right? Ileseolofi, which means that many blessings, many new beginnings, new life, long life, right? All by way of a wild lofi, our spiritual governor almost of all the Orishas, right? But how he does that, that's one of those parts in the prophecy where it says he does it here on earth, on the ground, right? When he's transiting through and he's looking at you and he's saying, hey, Odile que? Man, you're doing a good job. Ireariku for you, right? Long life, blessings, new beginnings. You're gonna prosper. Good job. But we need to constantly stay in that ire. We need to constantly look for those blessings. We need to constantly follow the advice of the 3 signs that we broke down. Why? Because when we look at the opposite side of Irearikun, we come up to an Osolbo that brings misery, that brings death. And I already told you in the first sign, the 3 houses are in chaos. Don't be part of a chaotic house, because one of them is in the cemetery, another one is in the prisons. You don't want any of that. So stay in Ireariku. Look for the spiritual blessings, the ethical, the moral things that you know drive you. Maintain that balance. Okay? Now, use your Ori. Be humble. Avoid the justice system like the plague. Avoid the hospitals like the plague. Okay? Avoid the cemeteries like the plague. Just avoid. Avoid those things that you know are already in chaos that could probably suck you in, right? But if you have to do it, because let's say you got to do an embol, you got to do something, somebody's sick in the hospital, the right thing to do is to go and visit. Somebody died, the right thing to do is go to the wake, go to the cemetery. Fine. But clean yourself. Talk to your spiritual elders so we can better build a plan for you. That's very important going forward. All right. Now, time for the flag. All right, the flag this year came governing Ochosi. Ochosi, right? Because one of the signs, believe it or not, in the prophecy, not one of the signs, but in the prophecy came Onichi Eile Oshosi, or an ebo should be given to Ochosi. And that those eboses are something that gets explained when you do your first year or the beginning of the year consultation in order to put all this together, right? But Ochosi came out governing, okay, which is a big deal. And who came accompanying him was Ochum. So she's complementing Ochosi. So your flag is going to be half blue, half yellow. So that means that on the right-hand side, you got blue, right? So if you have a flag and you're facing it, right, that means that if you turn your back to the flag, that right hand, right? So if you're facing it, it's the left hand should be blue. This side should be yellow. So your left hand should be the blue side. The right hand should be the yellow side. And then the border should be a gold trim. That flag you will put on top of your door, in a window that receives sunlight. But it's very important that we make sure that we put that flag up. With that said, I tried to be as short as I could in order to give you the best breakdown possible on the letra de año that I thought was beneficial for you. Beneficial for Maile. Beneficial because it is still a letra de año nonetheless. So with that said, Iburu, Iboya, Ibucheche, many blessings on this 2022. Okay? 2022. It's going to be a great year if you want it to be a good year. It's going to be a great year as long as you're willing to accept the challenge of taking care of yourself completely. And with that said, always a pleasure. Iburu, Iboya, Ibucheche, Cyberland.
Para olo yureso que boda.